Like, most people don't do this, but what I did was I self-medicated the anxiety and the depression and the pain, shooting up meth and heroin into my jugular and carotid. Even for people that don't believe, that aren't Christians, I would say reading the Bible every day still helps. If you are somebody that had a lot of childhood trauma and you're having a lot of craziness in your life, look into childhood trauma. The night we turn the jailer's key. It's not always the snoring that bothers me. So I am on the spectrum, is what we call it now, I guess. Autistic, as it were, neurodivergent. But there are some things that aren't different, and meaning for being autistic, it's the same for atypical and divergent people. I have also giftedness. I think differently. I truly am divergent. I am just different. It's hard to even kind of explain, but people that are like me, we know each other very quickly. Communication is hard because putting ideas that I have in my head into English language, and English language is a map that we use to symbolize reality for a easier way to digest and, transmit ideas back and forth, which is what allowed us to transmit ideas from one generation to the next. And it wasn't until we were able to build from the information gathered in one lifetime, passed down to the next, and build and continue to build with each generation. That's how we have all of the knowledge and technology and everything that we have. All of the comfort and ease of the modern world is really due to everybody that came before us. And there are things like living in this world can have difficulties. There, even as just a neurodivergent, like autistic, I have ADD and, depression and anxiety that come from the ADD and the autism, but I don't even really think of it as like I am autistic. It's just, I am, and then you have to find, like, to communicate it with people, you have to, talk about it in the ways that it's talked about. So you have to use the common terms and parlance and everything. So, there are things that being autistic is harder to live in the world. It's harder to keep a reliable schedule and, to conform to what society expects out of 90% of people, which is to go to work, come home, and then do it again, and then be okay with a couple of weekend days, and, finding happiness and joy where you can find it. I, not unlike a lot of other people, but certainly not like everybody that is autistic. Like, most people don't do this, but what I did was I self-medicated the anxiety and the depression and the pain. I had a lot of loss and some specific tragedies that were hard for me to get over. I'm still not really, but I self-medicated the bad feelings, which turned into a very long and storied battle with addiction, ending with some of the hardest things to battle, ending up shooting up meth and heroin into my jugular and carotid, because it was so quick. I could walk into a bathroom if I already had the syringe ready, so I would prepare everything one place, sometimes more than one shot, and then I'd go into the bathroom and real quick, just done. People thought I was really hardcore for that. I am ashamed of it because it was laziness. It was because people in my life didn't know I was doing it, so I had to be sneaky. Like, it's shameful and sad. And some of it was actually because I ran out of other places to go. Like, I was a junkie. This is years ago, but still, it was very real. And it's hard to relate to a lot of people because most people can't understand how you can do that. And, to some people, it's obvious and easy to understand, but there aren't that many of y'all, us, them, whatever. I've been trying to write music that would transmit the ideas and feelings that I am trying to, communicate. I have a voice. For a long time, it was really out of humility. I mean, honestly, it was. I assumed people wouldn't want to hear what I had to say. I assumed that even if I had great ideas, I'm just one person. There's other people with great ideas. It was from that place of just not assuming that anybody would care about anything that I had to say. But as I have gotten older, I'm 45 years old. I know I don't look it. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that you have to use your voice. I recently have been accepted into a peer support certification class. For anybody that doesn't know, it's kind of the first step on the journey to getting a substance abuse counselor certification, which is like a master's school, but you can do it online. It only takes like, a year and a half, something like that. I'm about to get my MBA. After I get the peer support, I'm going to get my MBA at WGU, which, I've heard is pretty easy and quick, and I don't think it's going to unlock tons of doors, but, it will help. And it's stuff that I want to learn. And we're very low income, so I'm able to get student loans for the tuition. But the peer support, I'm very excited about the peer support because I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. And we've managed to find a place. I don't have a license, my wife drives, but we're separated. So, we got into the same class and it's free. It's an amazing thing. We're in Rutherford County, which is very close to where Helene had a lot of destruction. We're about 45 minutes, hour away from Asheville. And I also recently have started my walk with the Lord. It's a little weird for me to talk about because I feel like I don't have any authority to speak about it because it's kind of a pretty new thing, but it is true. I have started with some of my wife's help, and we're trying to raise our son. He's kind of rebelling, but I have relatively recently started being in church 3 times a week and reading the Bible every day, which I'm told is the key. the Bible is the Word of God. And I'm not saying that I don't believe the Bible or anything, but I'm not a strict, like, every word of the Bible is true type of person. I look at the Bible as lessons and stuff, but I'm trying to kind of evolve, and all of that stuff together. The addiction and the mental stuff and the spiritual stuff. I've started working out more, focusing on my body more. I had my shoulder replaced in March of last year, 24. So, that's been a struggle. It's very slow. I've had several setbacks with things getting pulled, and so I'm almost a year in, and I'm still at about 3 or 4 months progress. So it's frustrating, and it hurts, and I can't use it for stuff, and I have to remember to not use it for things, and it's just a long, frustrating journey with that too. So there's like all of these things that are going on. I'm out of work and being paid a reduced wage, 50%. So it's nowhere close to the amount I was making, and it's not really enough. But we are good at low spending, and we definitely don't live outside of our means. I've been able to get my credit back to a fair level. Not great, but not bad anymore, which it is a miracle. I mean, credit is something that you either can kind of have a sense of security, because if there's a disaster, you can borrow money because you have decent credit, and house, car, that kind of thing, or is liability, and it's not good, and you can literally, every time you remember it, it's like a kind of a panicky thing, because there's no backup to your earning or your possessions or whatever. You can't borrow much when you don't have good credit. We were really fortunate when we had bad credit that there were some people that worked with us in key ways that allowed us to continue to survive. We live right across the street from our church, which was crazy how that worked out. My wife has been great in this last couple of years. Like, in life, she's gone out and made a lot of friends and made a ton of progress on her mental health stuff, and her walk with the Lord is very far past where I am. We are separated right now because we couldn't communicate without getting in arguments. So she is living with friends, and the goal is to move back in together, once things are good. They're getting a lot better. I mean, in the last over the weekend, she spent basically almost most of Saturday and all of Sunday over here at our house. My son still lives with me because we're in the same house, and he lives with her a couple days a week. Their relationship was kind of a little bit at odds. He's got some anger about some things, but everything is kind of moving forward. It's amazing, and it's only possible because I have been putting one foot in front of the other and trying to do the right thing. It's hard to do the right thing all day, every day, for like months. A lot of people do it, and it's not that hard. I don't know how those people do that. My brain goes in so many directions, and my feelings go in so many directions. I have a tremendous amount of empathy, almost too much. In some of the communities that I pay attention to, call it empath. I really do have an uncanny way of being able to feel what somebody else feels. It's a curse sometimes, but it's usually a good thing. So I'm making this particular video because I'm hoping somebody that sees it can see that, I'm a crazy, like, the word crazy is not good to use generally and about other people and stuff. And I'm not trying to say autistic people are crazy or people with ADD are crazy or any of that stuff. I feel crazy. I feel like a crazy person. And so it's possible to be pretty crazy, to be on some of the hardest drugs there are. Um, I've been to prison also. Like, that's just a little, like, toss that in there. And I also have a college degree. I had a bad acid trip while I was at school, or while I was suspended from school. And I managed to get back in and then declare a triple major in physics, math, and economics. And I got a chemistry minor by accident. I love to say the chemistry minor by accident thing. It's true. I was taking a bunch of chemistry classes, and one of my the teacher I had for the last several, came up to me and said, "You know, you are about to get a chemistry minor." And I was like, "No, that's awesome." Uh, so I've got a lot of crazy stuff in my story. My sister dove into a pool and broke her neck when I was 12 and was paralyzed for the rest of her life, and it was devastating. I mean, it was tragic. Like, there were newspaper articles about how much courage she had to keep going and stuff in our town, and it was just a tragic, devastating, like, changed my childhood and trajectory of my life and like everything. Um, Without that, I would be a much more well-adjusted person. That was one of the most destabilizing things that I can imagine having to deal with. But so all of that, and I am even in the midst of some chaos, like, me and my wife being separated and not having a license. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I've had to come to terms with. What will I do if me and my wife don't get back together? I thought I was going to be married for the rest of my life. I love my wife. We've had a lot of issues, but we do love each other. And it just, it would be very sad if we weren't able to stay together. My son is 13. He's getting to that age where, like, he used to be just my best friend and we did everything together. And, he was my little buddy. And in the last year or two, he's getting old enough where he's starting to have girlfriends and, starting to really push the limits and rebel against rules and stuff like that. And so that's another hard thing. And all of these things together really do make, like, when I say them all out loud, I realize just how much stuff it really is. It's a lot. But, I've been clean for several years. I was clean for several years and then had a bad relapse. And now I've been clean for several more years. And I was very fortunate to learn the program of Alcoholics Anonymous from some really good people in the city that I got most of my clean in. And I got clean more than once, and many times, really. But the longest I was really able to put together was about a year and a half. And that was up until I was like 33. So 12 years ago. Lost my mom and dad more recently. But when I lost my mom, I really went off the deep end. And that was before the prison sentence. It was only 6 months, but it was not good. And that kind of, when I got out of prison from those 6 months, everything kind of started over. I was on probation for 30 months. And so I kind of had to do it. But the point is, even with all of that insanity, and it is a lot of insanity, and a lot of it I brought on myself by being weak and undisciplined, and with the drugs and stuff. That's my biggest regrets are all wrapped up in the selfish decisions I made to use drugs, the times that I did. And it was lots of times, but the time periods. But it is possible, even with all of that, to be on the other side of the hardest stuff and to be dealing with the hard stuff. And is it 3:15? No way, that's 3:15. And I just wanted to make this video for anybody that has gone through either any or all or some of that stuff, and say that you really can get through it. It can be navigable without making you completely insane. I mean, I'm poised now for this next period of life, to start the helping other addicts from a professional point of view instead of just, program type things. And to start a business is probably what it's going to be. A business of helping people somehow. And my wife is doing ministry stuff, so we're both trying to help people, and I hope that we are able to put that together into a solid, thing that we can first do one thing of, and then multiple things to help people do the type of thing that I'm talking about right now, because it is difficult, and it is very easy to make one little misstep and throw the whole thing off. And when there's not a lot of tolerance for error, it's difficult. It's tough. I was able to. Me and my wife both were able to quit smoking several years ago now, and that by itself is insane. I'd never thought I would not be a smoker, just because I didn't think I could quit. I smoked weed every day of my life for a very long time, and I don't smoke weed anymore now that it's legal and okay to smoke. But it takes a lot of my motivation. When I can use it at the very end of the day as like a reward after I've done everything I need to do, then it's okay. But I wasn't able to just do that. It turned into in the morning and all. So I am trying to come up with kind of a framework that I could say right now with steps to do that, so people could do what it is that I'm talking about. People that are having trouble doing it on their own, which I was. So, it is definitely possible to recover from any of that type of stuff. I do feel like I was about as far down as you can get with all of the various things that I screwed up and that happened. And I love the feeling of somebody telling me that something I did really helped them, that they are now past whatever the thing was, and that something that I did helped them get there. It's a great feeling because it's for them. It's not like, it's good when it's you, it feels good, but when you can help somebody else do that, it's like, I mean, that's what it's all about. That AA and all the other anonymous programs, 12-step stuff, all of them are about one person that struggles helping another person that struggles with the same thing. In fact, we say that's the only way that it can be done. So I hope that this video can help somebody to see how bad it was and how better it is now. The things that I do that make the biggest difference were quitting smoking, staying clean, drinking nothing but water, exercising. There's some mental exercises, stretching. It would be yoga if my shoulder worked, but instead it's just really vigorous stretching. Being very loose, muscularly speaking, is a very underrated thing. I have a little device I call GAFHO. It's gratitude, acceptance, faith, help others. If you do those 4 things, you can get through anything. That's a fact. You do those 4 things. It's kind of hard to do sometimes, but things you're grateful for, things you have to accept. Faith, meaning remember it, commune with God, that type of thing. And then help others is the one that usually actually pushes it over the edge, because when you stop thinking about your issues, even for a minute or two, that's usually what makes the difference. I meditate every day. I pray and read the Bible every day, as I already said that. And even if I didn't believe what the Bible says, it would still be good for my discipline and mental health to do that. So even for people that don't believe, that aren't Christians, I would say reading the Bible every day still helps. There was a time I didn't believe much of the Bible. Well, yeah, I'm not sure how to say that. I grew up going to church, and then, some just years of, I'm not sure exactly, but reading the big book and or the Bible, it's centering. It aligns your focus and will with something that's bigger than yourself, something that isn't your selfish desires and, little idiosyncratic thoughts and stuff. You can get out of yourself. In the big book of AA, it literally talks about smashing the ego. And that is probably the number one thing for any kind of change, is to realize that, the smallness and the fragility and the, imperfection that we are. And only from that point of kind of, a ball of clay, and kind of roll it into a ball, whatever it was, roll it into a ball and start over, kind of. Like they say, break you down and build you back up, like all of that stuff. It's all kind of, it's all related. And PTSD and CPTSD are 2 things that have caused me the most struggle. Complex or childhood PTSD, that's what the C can stand for, kind of either one. There's complex trauma, which is like over time and various kinds. And usually if that happens while you're, young, then it's just childhood. And it's my childhood was like kind of normal good, and then when my sister got hurt, everything changed. And so from 12 on, it was there was a lot of traumatic stuff that I didn't realize was traumatic until many years later. And dealing with that, if you are somebody that had a lot of childhood trauma and you're having a lot of craziness in your life, look into childhood trauma on YouTube. Crappy Childhood Fairy and Tim Fletcher are 2 of the best ones that I've seen. There's a lot of other ones also. If you are, I think everybody pretty much knows this by now, but if you're struggling with autism or ADD or anything, go to YouTube. There's so many good videos on YouTube. If you're watching this, you already know about YouTube, which most people, I don't see how you couldn't know about YouTube, but some people don't think of it as a first resource type of thing. I have started thinking of it that way. I wish I had been paying attention in my life like 10 years prior to when I started paying attention, because I didn't even know YouTube was a thing in like 2010, because I had been doing so much craziness and, drugs and like not paying attention to like what was going on in the world and stuff like that. If I had realized what was happening with YouTube, I would have started a lot earlier, and I think I would have already been successful by now. At this point, everything is, there's a whole lot of competition, but there's also a whole lot of people watching stuff. So I'm hoping this video gets in front of people that are like me, are like us, and I hope that it helps somebody. That's the way I look at it is, if one person is helped, then the video was successful. Because, it's like, I imagine I took 2 hours to sit down and talk to a person and hopefully help them. So if I help a person doing it this way, then that's help, and that would be great. That's success. Obviously, if it helped a bunch of people, that would be even better. Obviously, I am trying to self-sustain this YouTube thing, but I'm pretty much just using my wisdom of being 45 and all the shit that I've been through. And, I'm relatively good at most of the stuff that I try to do. Not great, but, above average at most things. And I'm trying, I'm not focusing on one area, is what I'm trying to say. The neurodivergent is kind of, if you looked at my life and tried to come away with one theme type of thing, it would be neurodivergent in a lot of different ways and a lot of different things about it. But that's what it always comes back to, because it's either, it's one of the many things that I've mentioned, addiction or one of the actual disorders, or if it's none of that, then it's the gifted thing, the trouble communicating with people, and a very unique way of thinking, which is good in some ways, and you can't relate to as many people if you don't think like most people do. My high intelligence masked my ADD and my autism for a long time. And I can still kind of just brute force my way through a lot of stuff, but it's not the best way to do it. It's not really progressing, learning, getting better to do it that way. And it doesn't work as well. So I'm trying to kind of, I've always been an anti-conformist. Social media, I've literally, I have a feeling of aversion from all of the social media apps, because it's that's what everybody does, and I just want to not do it for that reason. And I wish it wasn't like that, because if I'd have been using Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that a lot longer, I would be more connected. I would have more resources and know more people and all that stuff. So, I'm still learning, obviously, but I am trying to, along the way, help somebody that's maybe just a little bit not as far where I am. And so hopefully that's what this video will do. I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to talk about for the whole thing when I started. I had a starting point, and that's usually how I do the best. I just have a starting point and then talk about something I know and then upload. And so I'm sorry it's not more like edited and engaging type of thing, but I do hope it's entertaining and informative and helpful in some way, is the most important part. So I think I'm going to drop it right there for today. And if you are watching this right now, then you are the coolest person ever, because it means you watched the whole video, which is the most helpful to me thing that you can do. So I truly thank you if you're watching this. If you're hearing me talking right now, I truly thank you for your viewing, support, And I truly hope that it helps somehow. Till next time, this side or the other.